I'm in for a very long Tuesday. Stugotz has come in smelling like cigarettes.
Thank you.
And yesterday, because I'm pretty sure everything on his face and everywhere else is the same thing he had on yesterday, which he slept in. I don't know for sure.
No.
But he smells like yesterday.
I was wearing jeans yesterday, Dan.
And he comes in and he says to me and Greg Cote, I got the Giants over 7.5 wins, and I'm liking Arizona over 4.5 wins on the season.
O's and U's. It's that time of year. I put my O's and U's in for the season yesterday. Greg Cote has talked me. He's convinced me. I took the Dolphins. I took the Giants. Greg Cote is convincing me that Arizona is a good play. I mean,
at 4.5, because it's such a it's an anomaly. The lowest in the league is normally 6.5, and for any team to be 4.5, no matter how bad you think they are, that's a jump on it number.
Yeah,
I read an article that suggested the Arizona Cardinals are going to be an underdog for every game this NFL season.
They're tanking for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Because they cut Colt McCoy. McCoy, this is what he does. He goes out and wins you 8 games. And you don't want to win 8 games when you're trying to get Caleb Williams.
I got to be honest. I've reached a new level of not understanding tanking when I thought the previous definition is if you're tanking, you're playing Colt McCoy, not that you're really wounded because you're letting Colt McCoy go.
You play Josh Dobbs. That's the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is not healthy. If you want to tank for Caleb Williams, you don't do it with Colt McCoy. Dan, he still cares. And he cares enough to rally that team to 7-8 victories. You know,
I don't care about your opinion about over-unders.
Oh, I do.
And yes, Greg Cote, I didn't ask. I was setting up the show trying to explain why my Tuesday is going to be long, because while you were doing this, Greg Cote, who had no interest in listening to you, simply wanted to give you his opinions on things.
Sure.
And he said that his personal rankings have come out. He's officially done all of the teams in the league, and he's got the Dolphins number 4, higher than they've ever been, and he says, notably, higher than the Bills as well. So noted homer Greg Cote, who said with Stugotz last year that the Dolphins would win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Is now going the same direction again this year.
There were injuries last year.
Yeah. They've gotten better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They've gotten better.
They have.
Yeah, and if Jalen Ramsey weren't missing half the season, I would be even more excited. But even with that injury, I mean, I could talk for the whole show about why they're a better team and why they're better than Buffalo. A couple of reasons are Tua is going to stay healthy all year. He's going to play all 17 games.
Okay, very
He's
good.
not going to miss a single game.
Okay.
Vic Fangio is the god, the lowercase g there. No offense to anybody. He's the god of defensive coordinators, and they're ready to do it, man. Mike McDaniel digging in to his second season. He's familiar now. He's more comfortable.
Yep.
They're ready. They're ready. Dolphins haven't been to a Super Bowl in almost 40 years, since Dan Marino's 1984, and they're ready. They're going to do it.
This
and
is
you
the
know
year.
it, and you know it. By the way,
good.
I have to say that because what I'm saying,
Glad you said it.
What I'm saying is more than just my opinion. You can etch it in stone, bring it to a tablet, put it on your back like you're Moses, walk into a bank and deposit that tablet. Because I'm talking the truth here. I'm spitting it. Damn right. It's just coffee. It's
And
got me
you know
flying.
it.
And you know it. And you know it.
2 lattes. Sean Payton's excuse for why it is he gave that interview. You've had too many lattes this morning. But that's not even. Those 2 elements are not.
He should etch it in stone, though. Greg should.
Yeah.
I feel like. And just walk around with a stone all season.
Yeah. Can you buy a stone tablet?
I don't know.
I got to go on Amazon. Amazon stone tablet. Google that.
I'm on it.
Yeah, please. I would love a stone tablet.
This is Greg Cote's new thing. I've seen him do it to Chris, who he's turned into an administrative assistant. He won't even do his own Googling. All he's doing right now is delegating to everyone. Today, before we started today, he went to his son when we asked him if there was anything that he was really interested in talking about, and asked his son, hey, Chris, what do I think?
Right. I'm an idea man. You know, I rely on others to research my ideas and flesh them out.
$39.95 for a stone tablet, 10 Commandment size.
That's also not an idea, man.
Done. I just spent $40 for a 2-foot length of foam. I'm easily going to spend that for a stone tablet.
He has a hurt
That's
hamstring.
steal.
That's why.
Hammy.
I'm rehabbing a hamstring.
Well,
for bowling.
we joined a bowling league. He hurt his hamstring.
Terrible.
So I'm trying to get him. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing to get your hamstring back up? He's like, nothing. What do you mean? I'm just letting it heal. I'm like, Dad, do some research. Do some work on it. And he went out and bought this foam thing, and apparently he overpaid for it.
Well, it's $40 for a piece of foam, but supine on the ground. I should have brought it with me.
A foam roller, yes.
I
they're
told you to
they're
bring it with
they're
you.
They're very good.
And by the way, it's the shade of this beautiful blue carpet.
Important detail.
Not an interesting
Maybe it's
detail.
there. It's just blending in.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay. Billy,
Hey.
go sit in the penalty box.
What? For what? What did he do?
What did he do?
Trying to help. What if you trip and fall?
Maybe
Wow.
it's there.
It's the same color as the carpet.
Maybe it's there because it's the color of the carpet.
Camouflage.
I want you to be
Blends in.
careful.
That's the most efficient. You've said barely anything so far in the show today, and you get sent to the penalty box on a terrible joke. It ain't here.
Whoa, it is in there.
Oh, I think you found it.
Are you
Lawsuit.
okay?
Lawsuit.
It's tough to see, I know.
I don't know why you would come
okay?
through here on your way to the penalty box.
Slapstick comedy.
Physical comedy. We don't do nearly enough of it around here.
Oh, Lord.
It was a great trip by Billy.
Dick Van Dyke over here.
It's the Dick Van Dyke. We need to bring it back, right? Physical comedy hasn't been really done since Dick Van Dyke.
Right.
John Ritter. I mean, come on.
Wait a minute, Chris, you laugh at this?
John
I
Ritter
actually
somehow, went over the
I
couch,
know
yeah.
chronologically you're right, but it sounds like an even older reference than Dick Van Dyke.
The funny thing about the reference to Dick Van Dyke, who's still with us, incidentally,
Yes.
in his 90s.
He couldn't pull that fall off
I
anymore.
mean, Jim Carrey did happen in the 90s.
True.
No, Van Dyke's the right reference.
The lane is open. It remains open for anyone in the last 25 years who wants to be the best this quarter century at physical comedy.
You don't see an ottoman anymore. There's nothing to trip over.
The thing that I was
It's a
going
great
to
point.
mention is that
Put it on the poll.
the last week, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you see ottomans anymore?
Is there anything to trip over?
Nothing to trip over.
You guys are going to be shocked what I'm about to tell you. That is the God's honest truth. That for the last week, at least in part, because my wife has suggested strongly that I sort of have to sit in the hurt of what it is that I'm feeling that's not going anywhere for a while. After the passing of my brother, my younger brother, I was in North Carolina for a week in the woods in one of those J.J. Watt cabins. And I am not joking when I say to you, I didn't have very much access to anything. But what I did have access to, and what was the show and the thing that I was watching most when I was there, is the Dick Van Dyke Show from the 1960s on its own channel, 24 hours a day.
What?
Yes, and I was just sort of hypnotized by the black and white going back in time and watching one of the original television shows that does indeed begin with him trying to come into his own home and falling over an ottoman.
Great.
You would think you would know where it is.
You would think so. He lives there and it's right there. We can all see. We can all
Unless
see
Mary
it.
Tyler Moore moved it or something.
Yeah,
right.
Laura moved it.
Well, that's the Phil Dunphy of Modern Family homage. He always tripped on the same part of the stairs.
Greg, the thing that I wanted to get to, however, that has nothing to do with over-unders or your rankings of the Miami Dolphins,
Which will be online soon at the Miami Herald.
Nice.
is that Mike Ryan, who really doesn't want to be dealing with our various nonsenses, you know, I'll look in the Slack and one of the poor women will be there writing, hey, guys, feel free to double flush the toilet because you guys are a bunch of hyenas and we don't know how to actually live as human beings. Greg Cote was told by Mike Ryan, hey, Greg, can you get here a little earlier because when you're in makeup, you're missing the meeting. And Greg Cote has since been complaining, hey, is the show late? Are we starting late today? And complains every week that he has to be here for any meeting. And I asked him before the show, and I said to him, Greg, just out of curiosity, do you think that you've mastered Tuesdays so much that you need these meetings less than I do? because I have to sit in those meetings and I have to listen as well. And his response was the following.
My response is yes, of course you have to sit in the meetings more than I do because you are the engineer. Your hands are on the train's steering wheel.
Yep.
If you're not in that full meeting, absorbing, contributing, the train runs off the tracks. It's in a ditch, whereas I am a passenger on the train. I'm in the 38th row. I'm minding my own business. I'm dozing a little bit. The train's rocking. I'm having a beautiful nap on a rocking train. And then every once in a while, somebody from the show elbows me. I wake up. I say a clever line, a funny rejoinder.
That kind of thing.
And that kind of thing. And then I go back to sleep, and then you take over the show again. And that's what, so yes. And here's the other thing.
He's the conductor, Greg.
He's
You're
the
right.
conductor.
Yes.
And
Yep.
here's the other thing. I spend 20 minutes in the morning writing an entire list of show topics, which is tantamount to me being in the pregame meeting.
Which is lazy, by the way. It's just Dolphins,
This is me.
Canes, my podcast.
No, I mean-
back in my day.
The meeting just isn't for
We
you.
got through them all. I mean,
It's to know where we're going with videos, so you're not surprised what the
Right.
guests are, what
Okay.
other people might be interested in, so you can formulate your
Okay.
own takes on other people's
Okay,
topics.
first of all, nobody needs the makeup room more than I do. Okay, when I'm in when she's giving me makeup, it involves scaffolding, acetylene torches. It's crazy everything she's got to do to me. Okay, so I come out in time. I look at the big board. I see all the things, the show topics. I absorb them. I know everything we're talking about. Bing bang.
What are we talking about today?
Yeah, there's too many things to list.
no, I think Greg's point is whatever Dan wants to talk about, we'll just react around it.
Thank you.
That's it.
He's a passenger
Right.
in the 38th row.
We all
Thank
are.
you.
I
Thank you,
mean,
Billy.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Billy, by the way. So, I'm ready. I'm ready. I got a stone tablet, getting ready to etch it.
What
I'm ready.
are all of your thoughts on the Dolphins possibly getting Jonathan Taylor?
Okay. First of all, go get him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Greg Cote of the Miami Herald, I believe to be locally, I don't know if someone can top him, someone who has been covering the Dolphins longer than anyone in the history of this market. 40 plus years. And so when he brings you the expertise of you ask him for all his nuanced thoughts on the Dolphins, you get the kind of reporting and eloquence that you've come to expect from both Greg Cote Tuesdays and the Miami Herald.
Yeah, it's
That was Greg Cote giving you all of his thoughts on Jonathan Taylor to the Miami Dolphins.
yeah, it's
I got it.
I'm clearing my throat.
Does that sound like Adam Sandler?
Yeah, it's
I think it sounds like the swamp. The Schwam.
yeah, it's yeah, I'm circling the wagons. Yeah,
You should have heard Greg Cote and Stugotz talking moments ago. Stugotz evidently has some fear about a dental procedure that he has to have today. And so Greg Cote, yes, Roy, another dental procedure. I know you guys, yes.
Today?
Yeah.
So you definitely have to cancel the interview that we have. You can't interview anyone.
It's debatable.
No,
I might cancel.
I'm canceling it right now.
It's debatable. I might cancel. I might cancel the dentist or the periodontist because I was asking Greg, when you get a tooth extracted, would you rather? Now, Billy, we discussed this yesterday. I'm sorry to do this to you. It will air later this week, but we discussed this yesterday with an NFL Hall of Famer who told me that you need to be put to sleep when you get a tooth extracted, okay? Greg is saying going with local anesthesia. I do not want to do that, and I'm afraid of that, and this doctor only does that. I would rather you just put me to sleep. I wake up, the tooth is out. That's all I'm saying.
I was unaware that a dentist would give you general anesthesia. I thought it was all localized, depending on where they're doing the work in the mouth.
This is a periodontist.
I don't want to get caught in the details just now about your fear, although Greg Cote did ask the question, and I want to put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Have you ever fallen asleep in a dentist chair? Because neither Greg nor I could imagine falling asleep in a dentist chair, but Stugotz is very scared of everything that's happening today, and as he just mentioned, would like to just wake up and not experience anything. But that to me is less interesting than the holy hell that you have now immersed Billy in, as he, with a second baby, heads into another football season trying to corral you every week without knowing whether you are doing an interview while you have a mouth that's sedated.
Well, no, I didn't know that that's why we may have to cancel. I definitely have to cancel. Even if you have this procedure done, you're not going to be in any condition to be interviewing anyone.
Yeah, but I might cancel the procedure is what I'm trying to tell you. So
I'm going to reschedule the interview.
Okay.
If you cancel the procedure, cancel it. But
All right.
I'm going to reschedule.
All right.
But you also told us you were leaving early because you had to go to the meeting that you weren't canceling.
If I cancel the appointment, I will not be leaving here early.
When are these decisions going to be made?
I make them
5
last minute,
minutes before,
Dan.
yeah.
I wake up, I see how I feel. Yesterday, I felt fine about local anesthesia. Today, I don't. I mean, sorry.
You be you.
Yep, blame Joe Thomas. I mean, he's the guy who told me.
You just gave up the secret Hall of Fame guess that Billy was trying to.
I don't care.
He doesn't care anymore. I mean,
That's a
come
good
on.
get.
He's beating the
thank
care
you.
out of me.
That's
All right.
good.
Good get.
I'm glad I did.
The season is just about to start. The corralling of Stugotz is just about to start. Are you headed for a holy hell where you have 3 kids now, Billy, and 2 of them behave?
Yes.
The third is an adult who can't be trusted to do
Correct.
anything that you need him to do efficiently or honestly.
Or do.
Or do.
Yes. It's challenging. I'm already in mid-season energy level before the season started, which isn't great.
I'm amped up.
Yeah, that doesn't help me either.
And sedated.
Yeah.
What are you amped up about?
The Jets. I don't
He's
want to talk
excited
about them,
the
Dan.
Jets, yeah. And like I'm trying it's kind of like I don't know which is worse, like the Stugotz that's too amped up or the Stugotz that's like, maybe I have a dentist appointment.
The Jets, you would think at some point he would learn, but he has now gotten to hope again, and there's good reason. They have a quarterback. I'm legitimately curious as we head into this season, though. Who's got the greater expectations as 2 franchises that have been really below average for a long time? when Greg Cote is saying, I've got the Dolphins ranked 4th in my power rankings, which incidentally, he apologized and was in a great deal of stress during the break because those aren't coming out today. You will have to wait until tomorrow to get the Greg Cote NFL power rankings. But as he puts...
You'll have to wait till Friday for Joe Thomas.
Maybe, if you don't cancel your procedure, which you're leaving early for, that you might cancel.
Mm-hmm. Keep me posted.
Greg Cote says that he's got the Miami Dolphins ranked 4th in the league, and yesterday Stugotz is saying Jets 15-2.
Oh, wow. Can I get the under on that? Is that
They have a tough schedule. I mean,
regardless, who has the greater expectations this season between those two teams? Those are bottom-feeding teams for 20 years because Tom Brady exists and gets to the Hall of Fame on the backs of the incompetences of these franchises.
I think it's obvious the Jets have the greater expectations because they're on Hard Knocks. They have Aaron Rodgers. The team was good last year. They had 7 wins last year with Zach Wilson as their quarterback, and now they have Aaron Rodgers. So I think the expectations are clearly on the Jets. Oh, here he is.
Yeah.
Nice
I don't know what you found in North Carolina, but it might have been your balls. Who's going to have a better season, the Jets or the Dolphins? Where have you been all my life?
That's not all I said. It wasn't even who's going to have the better season. It's expectations.
Oh,
Who's got the
A useless thing.
Oh, yeah.
Are you
really think Tua's going to stay healthy for all 17? Huh?
Are you rubbing your nipples with your talons?
Oh, yeah. It's game week. 15-2, huh? 15-2.
I'm so happy.
I didn't say it.
I'm so happy to see you for a number of different reasons, but one of them is I don't know if anyone else experienced this yesterday when I saw the clips, the magical clips of Undisputed that had me laughing hysterically. But that sound felt to me that after 20 years of ripping, selfish, loudmouth athletes, as Skip Bayless tried to do that show with 3 generations of the loudest football guy that existed during his generation, that he was opening the gates to the hell he had created and then surprised when all the demons came back and ate his face. He tried to unleash all 3 of them at the same time because he's constructed this unholy hell of sports debate, and the end of his career is going to be being devoured by guys who demand the ball and just steal the show from him. Just take it from him because he's not as big a personality as any of them are.
That's what I did all day long yesterday. It interrupted the Jay Mariotti podcast, which I put down for just a brief second to watch that roundtable of nobody allowing Skip Bayless to speak. And I gotta tell you, you played yourself there. Michael Irvin and Richard Sherman? I mean, come on.
It's so good.
Come on.
Keyshawn Johnson. Keyshawn Johnson is going to get eliminated very quickly because he's not as good as those guys.
Skip Bayless is complaining about not getting the ball when Keyshawn Johnson wrote a book called Give Me the Damn Ball.
Throw me the damn ball. Yeah. Keyshawn, what a deal. What a deal. What a deal for Keyshawn. 10 months ago, ESPN gave him 5 years, $18 million. And then lets him go and allows him to work because they're like, we'll just trade Keyshawn and Michael Irvin for Shannon Sharp, and we'll all we'll do this this funny game of just seeing who can talk over each other.
Shell game.
I'm sorry, Dan, but I just can't get over the fact that 2 minutes ago, Stugotz said the Jets would go 15-2, and not 30 seconds later tried to gaslight all of us into saying, no, I didn't say 15-2. It was 30 seconds earlier on the air, out loud.
That was then. This is now.
Oh, for crying out loud.
This is where he will end up all season, fluctuating back and forth between these teams. But Greg Cote of the Miami Herald did have more eloquent thoughts than the ones that he shared with us to kick off the show today on Jonathan Taylor. I am at least a little bit confused by the Dolphins going that kind of all in, although reports are that they're not going to give a first-round pick, but the running back is really disposable right now.
Right.
And you, I think, wrote that they shouldn't go after Dalvin Cook, who is older.
Right.
But you're saying yes on Jonathan Taylor, and you don't like any of the the discount bin parts that they have right now in the backfield?
I like Raheem Mostert. I think he's one of the underrated backs in the league. Career average 5 yards a carry, very fast, apex speed for that position.
Gets hurt a lot.
Yeah, okay, and that's why they have a pretty deep running back room. But in this case, Jonathan Taylor is a top-tier back at the right age. And if they can get him for a second-round pick at the right price, I think it's in keeping with what they're doing right now, which is going all in. In the last year, we've seen them spend a hell of a lot of money for Tyreek Hill. We've seen them arguably overspend for Bradley Chubb. We've seen them acquire Jalen Ramsey. This is an all-in team right now, which they've seldom been in their recent history. The Dolphins right now think they can win the Super Bowl in the next year or two, and Jonathan Taylor would be dovetail perfectly with what their philosophy has become.
Weren't people a couple of weeks ago super excited about the Chris Johnson speed and feeling of a chain? Weren't they doing that?
Yeah.
Good fit for a zone blocking scheme in terms of being able to bounce it to the outside. The people that have had the most success in this running scheme of the Shanahan tree. It's always guys that can get out quick.
I do think my opinion of the Dolphins doesn't change if they don't make this deal. I think they're going to be very good even without Jonathan Taylor, but he would be the exclamation point on what they're doing. And again, it's all the right price. Like, I would not spend a first-round pick for him.
Well, they don't have to because no one else is offering that apparently.
Right. So
right?
If it's a buyer's market and you get a 25-year-old back at a position where 3 years from now you'll be thinking, because look how fast Derrick Henry's gone downhill a little bit, although he's still pretty good, and I'm still.
Has he gone downhill? I don't think he's gone downhill that fast.
No, but
Oh, has he? Oh, this is the best segment. Oh, I'm so happy.
What are you talking about, Greg?
I don't think he's the back he was 2 years ago.
Okay.
I still think he's very good.
He had 2,000 yards 2 years ago.
Right.
Oh, this is good shit.
Nobody is the back they were 2 years
Slow it down,
ago.
I'm about to come.
The point is, at this position only,
From all 7 of my penises.
I think the show that Greg Cote and Stugotz do during the break is better than anything ever produced by our show or by Meadowlark Media. Sports Explains the World is something you should check out. Meadowlark did a docu-series that took a lot of time and money and is climbing up the rankings because it's a lot of super cool stories that we haven't talked about around here in sports. But during the break, Stugotz was asking Greg Cote about his shirt. And we learned together that this is a shirt that has been in Greg Cote's closet for 3 years. And this is the second time that shirt has been worn. Now, how would you explain what that shirt is? I would say it's like the Bellagio vomited on a tablecloth, is what I would say that shirt is.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
He read your mind?
The collar, if you're wearing it for only the second time, why is that collar standing up? The right collar is a little bit stiff.
Yeah, my wife told me about that before I left. She said she thought I was trying to look cool by having my collar up. I don't know why it's doing that. I don't. I'm going to have to ask my tailor about that.
It's a nice-looking shirt, though, Greg.
Thank you.
But you've given up on trying to look cool, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stugotz, our cool, older analyst here who represents the person who has covered the Dolphins the longest and has a great deal of expertise. Can you tell me, please, what Derrick Henry did last season as he's clearly downhill, and what he means, I suppose, is that he's still running downhill because he's getting acreage of yardage.
I didn't mean he was over the hill. What I meant was, and I tend to put things through, when it comes to that position, I tend to put things through a fantasy football prism, where a couple of years ago, he might have been your overall #1 draft pick. Now, I think his ADP is probably, Christopher, what is his ADP? 8?
He's getting drafted in the second round. It's funny, though, you have him on your team and kept him in fantasy.
I did. He was a keeper in my fantasy league. You're right. I still think he's a great back. I don't think he's as great as he was 2 years ago.
You just said a segment ago how quickly Derrick Henry has gone downhill.
Just to answer your question, Dan, just under 1,600 yards last year.
Right, but it took him a lot of carries to get there.
Yeah.
But to make my point, I use that as an example because that's the difference between Dalvin Cook and Jonathan Taylor. That's the difference between those two, is that Dalvin Cook is getting older for that position. Jonathan Taylor is still in his absolute prime for that position.
Nobody is paying running backs of any kind.
Correct.
And so the Dolphins would be the only – you're doing one of the best. Like, he was the leading rusher in the league, MVP candidate. Hell, I could have made the argument that Jonathan Taylor team, led by Jonathan Taylor, at one point toward the end of that season, if they had not lost the last game, I thought that team could have done exactly what the Bengals did in the playoffs, because even with shitty quarterback play, because of how good he was.
It should be noted, and I also subscribe to don't pay the running back, and their cautionary tales like Ezekiel Elliott. But the running backs that have gotten their money recently, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler now, these are running backs that are still producing at a very high level.
This is a running back that is worth paying. I'm with Greg. Like, I think if there's a running back to pay, it would be this guy. He's only 3 years into his career. The age is fine. He's 26 years old. And 2 years ago, Dan, that year, he had 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns.
I'm not going to disagree with what it is that you guys are saying. I'm simply going to point out to you that 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I don't remember when it was, before I saw what would be a revolutionary change at that position, I argued on the wrong side with Mina Kimes, lose every argument on you got to pay Dalvin Cook years ago. You got to pay Ezekiel Elliott. Mm-hmm. You got to pay Melvin Gordon, because I was using faulty math. And as this machine that gets more and more efficient shows, we're going to get to the point that none of these guys are going to be paid. Like, that's you're pointing out the 3 or 4 that are getting paid, but there will be some breaking point on this. If they keep shaving the margins on this position the way that they're doing, where all the running backs want to strike. Wasn't there a report of a meeting? They had a Zoom meeting where they were talking about like faking injuries because what is happening with the economy of that position. Eventually, you're all going to be as wrong as I've been the last 3 years, because I was paying Gurley. I said you had to pay Gurley. I got every one of them wrong, because I thought those were difference-making backs, and now Ezekiel Elliott is signing some tiny deal. Nobody actually wants him with the Patriots.
I have the top 10 highest-paid running backs for this season against the salary cap. Number 10 is a new running back in a new place, Miles Sanders, who was very productive for Philadelphia. James Conner, sneaky productive. 6 is a tie between Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs. and Saquon Barkley. Aaron Jones is 5th. He's still doing his thing. Nick Chubb still performing at a high level. Derrick Henry still at a high level. Alvin Kamara is probably the one that you can pick at and say they're going to regret that, especially this year serving a 4-game suspension. Number 1 is Christian McCaffrey. What I'm saying is the top 10 are guys that still produce.
But the Giants already told you with Saquon Barkley where it is they are on that line by risking angering him because they wouldn't give him the kind of deal that he wanted. And you're not going to convince me that Jonathan Taylor's a lot better than Saquon Barkley.
A part potentially worth considering with Jonathan Taylor that's different than some of these other backs is he was run into the ground all 3 years in college. So I just looked up the difference. Jonathan Taylor ran the ball 926 times in college. That's 300 more carries than Derrick Henry had in college. And we felt like he was being run into the ground.
Yeah. Which is wild because the book on Derrick Henry was he's probably not going to get drafted as high because of all the tread on his tires entering the league.
I think the top tier of running backs, Chubb, McCaffrey, Taylor, those guys are still going to get paid. I think the difference is it's going to be 2- and 3-year contracts. You're not going to see any running back signed to a 5-year deal anymore. It's just not going to happen. That's why if the Dolphins can get Jonathan Taylor on a smart 2-year deal for a second-round pick, that's what they want to do because that fits their right-now window.
That's not going to happen.
It can if there's no market for him.
He wants to get traded so he can get his new deal. Now
it's not going to be a 2-year deal.
It's been... Well, you trade your assets for him and you get him on your existing deal and you hope that it's such a toxic relationship between he and Irsay that he'll just accept the move to spite Jim Irsay without a contingent on an extension. But, I mean, if you apply just common logic, you'd think that he'd be going to a place that is already kind of agreed in principle to give him an extension.
Are you okay with the Dolphins? You realize you bring in a guy like Jonathan Taylor and you give him his money, you're not bringing back either a Waddle. Maybe you have to get rid of Tyreek's deal. Like there's a cap here. You can't just spend all this money.
I do think Tyreek is the guy. Tyreek's gonna. I don't think Tyreek's ending his career here.
But that's the question you have to say. It's not just about, of course, who wouldn't want Jonathan Taylor? It's okay if we bring in Jonathan Taylor, a position that you don't really need to spend on. Now we can't re-sign Wilkins. We can't re-sign Waddle.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Javon Holland.
I think looking at the roster, Tyreek's probably the guy that's not going to get to that next contract that you separate yourself from, and hope that Jalen Waddle can fill that role as he was admirably even before Tyreek Hill got here.
It's really amazing. We're talking about one of the best players in the NFL, and I understand what you're saying, Chris, but we've arrived at a point where that player is not worth paying for because you can get him in the discount bin. I can't believe it.
No, but
the running backs were the stars of the league at one point.
What I would say, though, on this, because I do think the economics of this are super interesting. The key, I think, in that sport and what the Dolphins are doing that's dangerous is the key in that sport is not merely to have great players. It's to have great players at value. It's to have Waddle. It's to have Tua. It's to have guys that you're not paying a ton because everyone's competing within a salary cap. It makes everything very even. And so the place that you get your biggest advantages is we have a great player, but we also have him cheap. And the Dolphins are going to have a lot of expensive players and players from other places, not players that you groomed, players that proved and gave their primes, gave those value years to someone else. Hell, Taylor gave him to Wisconsin. Like gave the prime of his career and his youth and his body, gave the value years to somebody else. So you're buying high on all these guys.
But they're not getting him for a 4-year plan. They're getting him to win this year or next year.
Correct.
Like, that's why they'll throw the money at him because they know this is all going to fall apart in 2 or 3 years.
But he's not going to make this incredible mess that he's making to sign some sort of short-term deal where he can get hurt because he wants a 1-year deal. He's going to leverage that at what is the height of his value to get the contract he wants.
Yeah, maybe. They'll have a bad contract with him and they'll probably lose players, but they're doing it to capitalize on the players that they have now for the next 2 years, let's say. And then they know we're going to get stuck with Jonathan Taylor, or maybe not, because it's football and you can always get out of those contracts somehow, and you're going to lose a lot of your players. But they're trying to capitalize on this window right now and win now.
It's capitalizing on the peak, right? It's trying to make the peak that this roster will have the highest it can possibly be, and understanding that on the back end, you may very well struggle. But if you're looking at a contract difference...
It's the Rams.
Right, but if you're looking at a difference between paying a player like Jonathan Taylor or, say, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor had 700 more carries in college.
Reportedly, 2 teams are interested in Jonathan Taylor.
There's always a mystery team.
Okay, but
Put it
reported
on the poll, Juju. Is there always a mystery team?
Well, the
Leverage.
reports are the Colts have received 2 serious offers,
Right.
and then up to 6 teams have inquired about Jonathan Taylor.
Right, and the Dolphins are in a position of power because I don't feel like they desperately need him. I think if they can get him at their price, fine, go ahead and sign him. And for me, their price should be a 1 or 2 year contract. A lot of money, but for 1 or 2 years. If they can't do that, Raheem Mostert is a perfectly fine running back, particularly in that offense where you're going to throw 250 passes to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle alone.
But, Greg, you're not getting him for 1 or 2 years. He's only going to sign here if he feels like he gets the deal that he wants.
You're like saying it's such an unlikely
Right.
scenario. Yes, they should, of course, sign him to the best deal for the
That's
team.
right.
It's like,
Right.
that's
Of course,
never
that's
going to
exactly-
happen.
Because they're in a position of power to do that.
Chris, Cody, your father has been writing that column in this market for 40 goddamn years. Get Patrick Mahomes for $1.
But
I endorse.
Trade your backup quarterback and a 6th-round pick for Patrick Mahomes.
But you guys aren't listening to what he's saying. He's saying that's the only reason they should
Thank
get
you,
him. If
Billy.
not, they don't need him. So if they can't get that, then they pass on him.
Exactly.
Not that they need him at that price.
Billy is right.
I'm listening to every word. Perfect show, no notes.
Billy's right. I mean, I'm not.
Well, I'm just saying what I'm explaining what you said, so you're just saying you're right.
Greg, you're acting like you wouldn't want Jonathan Taylor if the Dolphins signed him to a 4-year deal. You would.
It depends.
You either
on,
think he's good or not.
Okay, not if it means you can't re-sign Christian Wilkins and Javon Holland. I mean, I'm thinking of the entirety here.
Let's do all of it.
So
Let's
you
bring
don't
in
want him.
Jonathan Taylor, re-sign all the
So
guys.
you don't want him,
He's
or you
saying
do
you
get
want
can
him?
Mahomes
only
for
get him
sixth,
if
right.
you can do the other thing. If
No.
not, you pass on him.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And you know, when LeBatard over here is saying, I want to get Patrick Mahomes for $1,
This is the new and unimproved Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz. Gamble on by DraftKings.
Greg, then what happens is that you laugh.
I was in under the gun. I finished what I said before he said
Greg,
one.
but
And
then-
you know what?
Gotcha.
Re-roll the tape.
The segment started with you laughing at yourself because you were talking before the microphones were turned on, and I was trying to get you to stop because one day you're going to get us all fired.
Okay.
Because you never know what's going on around you. You never know when the mics are on or when they're not on. And so you were laughing at yourself, the fact that you were going to talk right through the beginning of the segment with something that you didn't know was on air. What are you laughing about?
Well, because
Billy?
you're worried about him doing something that would get you fired. You missed the day you were out where Greg started a sentence with, speaking of the N-word, and then continued the thought.
I don't know how to respond to that. I didn't say the N-word. What are you
Okay.
talking
You
about?
just said N-word, yeah.
Let's
In a disparaging manner.
no.
You were disparaging the word.
The word.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
All right, let's stop. Okay.
Thanks, Billy.
Because I
Good
don't.
idea.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
Thank you, Billy.
That's
For the
no,
first
no.
time I say thank you, Billy,
Billy's
and
got,
I don't mean
Billy's
it.
got 2 kids on the payroll now. He better be careful with some of those grenades.
I'm just saying, there's, he's done worse things, and you know it.
There was nothing wrong with that.
Anyway, one of the things that Chris Cote was saying during the break accurately, and if you want to hear Chris Cote perpetually bury his father in the audience, always take his father's side and say that Chris Cote is being mean to his father. The Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote is the name of his podcast. And Chris is very hard on his father.
They call me Chris Le Batard on that show.
But during the break, just if in the event that this was not expressed or thought by anyone in the audience when Greg Cote kept talking about Jonathan Taylor, Chris Cote was burying his father, just saying, you're saying the very most obvious thing, that the Dolphins should get the best running back in the league possibly for their terms and only their terms. Everyone in the audience would agree with that. There's no disagreement. Not even Skip Bayless could find a way to debate that. No one would disagree with that.
I disagree with you saying no one would disagree. The Dolphins right now are in a position of power to play that card, to say, we want you for this price. If you don't want us at that price,
They played
go
that game with Dalvin Cook and then lost him to the Jets.
and that's fine.
This is better than
Dalvin Cook. That's why I'm advocating they get him for the right price. If
the right price.
Look at the average person. Here's the thing everyone would agree on. Get Jonathan Taylor at all cost. That's not what I'm saying.
No, not everyone would agree with that.
Okay, yeah, most people would, because most people aren't considering, well, they got to re-sign Christian Wilkins. They can't overpay for this guy. Sign him to a 1 or 2 year lucrative contract.
Greg, he's going through all this because he doesn't agree. The player, the running back,
Chris,
doesn't
you're
agree.
disgusted with your father right now.
I'm just annoyed. I don't like. I just
Okay,
feel like,
listen to me. He part of the reason he wants out of Indy is because Indy has become a shit team whose offensive line has gone from one of the best in the league to one of the worst in 3 years. He used to be running behind Philadelphia's offensive line in Indy. He isn't anymore. He's on a terrible team with a 6.5 over-under. He can come to the Dolphins and be on a competitive team, and that's a big reason why he wants out of Indy. Now, if he's got a better offer than Miami, go ahead and take it, because you know what? Miami would benefit from him, but they don't desperately need him.
He just wants money. Speaking of annoying and being annoyed, I believe, in his passive-aggressive way, that Billy is trying to sabotage and self-destruct his career because of how frustrated he is, specifically this week with his teams. He says the Marlins are done.
No. I said they may be done, but I'm not sure about it yet.
All right. You're entitled.
I'm not ready to
take.
commit to them being done yet. There was an off day yesterday, Dan, so I couldn't do any scouting yesterday to tell you if they were done for sure. But they do have a rough stretch coming up. So things.
Well, it's not just a rough stretch. It's the only hope that you have is that everybody that's not Atlanta and the Dodgers is the same in that league.
It's possible. I mean, the Rangers lost like 9 straight or something. So teams go through rough patches. They can get right back into it. They do have to jump a couple teams now, but they have a rough patch coming up, Dan, where you have the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Brewers, the Braves. Then they have the Brewers again later. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough road to hoe, as they say.
They are indeed done, and
not ready.
Washington finished them because you can't be playing at home and eke out one victory against the Nationals.
Well, I mean, if their closers could close a GD game, then things would be totally different.
It's not a road to hoe. It's a row to hoe.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
It's a fine.
Whatever.
I love the GD reference. My dad used to say that, Wild Bill Cote.
Oh, yeah?
Instead of saying what GD stands for, he would say GD, and I always thought that was funny. I didn't know that was a thing that others said. I thought my dad invented that.
Well, that's right.
GED.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, you know.
no
there
one
could
else
be
ever
children
said it?
Right. I thought my dad, I'm thinking to myself, that's pretty cool. Dad doesn't want to say, so he's saying GD.
Well, this
Good for you,
Roberts has
Dad.
been a disaster, okay? I'm just going to say
3
what it
blown
is.
saves.
Yeah, it's been bad.
It's been a disaster so far. And you know what? I don't think he wants to be here. I think that's part of what's going on here. I don't think he wants to be here. I was talking to some insiders sitting on the same table as me, and they were saying he doesn't want to be here.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wait a
Insiders,
minute.
oh,
What
wow.
does that mean? Insiders. You are now angling for the baseball Craig Mish turf, Andy Slater. What do you got? You got sources?
No, I was just saying, I was talking to some people, and they think that he doesn't want to be here. And you know what? He's pitching like it. Pitching like he doesn't want to be here. I don't think he wanted to get traded. He came down here, didn't want to move his family or whatever, and now he's, now he's half checked out.
Every contender would have traded for him just about.
I wish they would have before us, honestly, because every other trade seems to be working except this one closer trade, which has been making this team fall apart.
Who were these insiders that you were talking to?
I can't say. I'm a
but like, where was it? Was it at the buffet in the area behind home plate?
It was
where
Jeremy.
were you?
I was right
wow.
here. He was at the show
So
the other
quick
day.
to give up
Yeah.
your sources, man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to tell you, but you're twisting my arm behind my back here. What am I supposed to do?
It wasn't necessarily that David Robertson didn't want to be traded here. It's just if you listen to everything he said to the media about what it's like to relocate his family at the trade deadline, tell that somebody who probably didn't want to be traded for by anybody.
And he has been bad and has felt Heath Bellish.
Well, and also, by the way, like every time they talk to him about like, hey, what happened? He's like, I don't know. I did my pitches, just didn't work out. It's like, no, show some remorse. You blew the game. You cost us the season, buddy.
Should be like, I'm so sorry. to the
Exactly
fans.
right. Yes, cry. Exactly right. Cry after you blow the game.
Care.
After you throw away the season, yeah, cry. That's what I want. Tears. That's what I want.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at the Le Batard Show. Should David Robertson sob openly at his locker during interviews?
100% yes.
After
It's going to be our
blowing
first
season.
100 to nothing. I'm telling you. Exactly right.
You got to sell it. You have to sell it.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
You know what? We don't need sobbing. What we do need is a quivering lip. You have to master the quivering lip to convey remorse without actually having to say it.
Go for it.
We should give him a lesson in that.
Yeah,
Can
look
you
right
do
at the
it?
camera
Why
in
don't
front of you
you
there,
do it?
Greg.
Try
I'll
it.
show people how to
Try
do
it.
it.
This is a
Right over
television
Stugotz'
show.
Just
shoulder.
blown a save,
It's
Greg.
being broadcast right now on YouTube. We're going to get our quick-moving video crew. We'll get to the camera right on him. Hold on. Let's all back off and just can we? Yeah.
I don't know why the Marlins traded for me anyway. I'm 36.
Well, he's 38.
He's 38. I mean, I'm 38.
Nailed it.
Excellent work.
38.
And you're crying. You're not
That guy's
quivering.
my age. Why are they trading for a 38-year-old guy who can't get anybody out? They benched the other guy too quick. The guy with the weird name. What
Puck?
was he?
Puck?
Yes.
Well, he was having a
Holy Puck.
They got him because of Puck.
I know, but give the guy a break. He blows 2 saves and they trade him for a 40-year-old man? Come on.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Does Puck have a weird name? That's such good analysis from our veteran reporter here on the guy with the weird name. Yeah, that's the kind of Marlins analysis you've come to expect here from Miami Herald columnist Greg Cote.
Damn right. Yeah, they're done. I hate to say it.
Well, it's too early to say. We don't know.
2.5
for sure.
hours.
Yeah, muffin left, man.
Well,
Okay.
You say
Look, they start off the second half with an 8-game losing streak. Then they go in a 2-8 skid. Arias is supposed to hit 400. He's hitting 350. The Marlins are finally supposed to make the playoffs for the 3rd time ever in a full season, and now they're tail spinning. It's just, the Marlins are being the Marlins again.
They
That's
should have
what's
traded
happening.
for Verlander for nothing.
Exactly. Well put.
Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Take on that salary?
Yeah.
Why not?
And
Go for it.
Hey, Sandy, come on now.
oh,
What
boy.
are you doing?
Yeah.
Careful.
Start
I mean,
pitching.
he's
Yeah.
their best pitcher, and is his ERA below 4 yet? Probably not.
No, it's been 4 all season.
When he has a temper tantrum, don't do it with your pitching hand also. Because, I like when you're upset and you're kind of slamming things to the dugout, you're frustrated. You didn't love the run support thing where you're taking on your teammates, but also that's 100% true. But also, if you're going to punch a bench, try not to do it with your pitching hand if you can.
Players of that stature should have a surrogate to punch a bench for them.
Yes. Designated punchers.
Right.
Yes.
Putting them on staff, you think?
Yeah. Like an assistant, a PA who would be angry for you.
Like Puck. Yeah.
He's like,
Not.
Damn it!
What do you mean, like Puck?
He's not any good. They don't need him anymore.
Exactly.
Punch a cooler.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or have the assistant to the assistant general manager be the guy who's like throwing temper tantrums in the dugout in representation of Sandy Alcantara. Right?
Garrett Hampson can punch things, right? Like,
Yeah,
have him
for
punch.
sure.
All he needs to do is run. Have Garrett Hampson just punch things on behalf of everyone. If he breaks a hand, it doesn't matter.
And he
All
could wear
he's
that
gonna
little
do is-
thing on his hand
exactly
to slide into
right.
second base anyway,
Exactly
so we're fine.
Right. The
Yeah.
oven mitt, yeah.
Or the bullpen catcher.
There you go.
You know, there's a million guys on the roster.
Well, the
who could
bullpen
do
catcher
that.
actually needs his hands to catch for the.
like the only thing he
Then
needs.
who's going to catch the
You
bullpen?
find another.
Exactly right. A dime a
He's
dozen.
got a big glove on his hand.
Marlins had the rare back-to-back bench punching days for starters with Braxton Garrett the next day after Sandy. So that's about how things are going.
Hey, Braxton, be a little better if you're going to punch something.
Okay.
I feel like you have to be a certain level to punch something, though. He's been good. Braxton Garrett, you're Braxton Garrett.
I mean, he's their number 2 starter.
Yeah, but he's Braxton
pretty good
Garrett.
this year.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do the Marlins lead the league in punching their own bench?
Well, last week they definitely did, yeah. Big week for bench punching last week.
Why'd you take out Garrett?
I'm just saying, I feel like you have to reach a certain level. Like Sandy Alcantara, he can punch a bench, and I'm like, he's our ace. Like, if like the number 3, I mean, you call him number 2. He's not our number 2.
But he's having a career year where Sandy's having the quote-unquote
The
off
off
year,
year,
in
yeah.
comparison. So if you're having a career year, do you have the ability to punch the bench even if you're not as good as the guy who's having the off year?
Nope.
I know you like Luzardo throws harder, but hasn't Garrett been better this year? Luzardo had those like 8 games in a row where his season went to shit.
Yeah, Luzardo was arguably more dominant when he was good, but Garrett's been more consistent this year. Luzardo had a stretch that was, well, bench punch worthy.
But I think Chris is saying win some hardware, do something,
The
win
gap.
a Cy Young, and then you can punch.
Not
things.
even a
That's
Cy
all.
Young, but just establish yourself as like, other people on other teams need to know who you are if you're going to punch shit.
Well, and then Yuri righted the ship until that damn Robertson came in and started doing the things that he's been doing since he didn't want to be here. That guy.
Greg, all your thoughts?